Oh, there we are. There we are. You can hear it on my phone.
Hey. I'm trying to get to us. There's always that awkward setup
I know. That's
time. Like,
always the in between.
yes. All right.
Okay, well, I just talked to Heather the other day and said, you know what? I follow a lot of people on Facebook and obviously in the autism community and the neurodiversity communities. And I'm always interested to know like who's behind the scenes or who these people are. And am interested to know that, you know, like what brought them to where they are and their Facebook pages or groups or what have you. So I asked Heather if maybe we could chat a little bit to kind of further explain who we are and kind of what brought us here. So we're just going to chat today. And so that to give you a little behind the scenes or inside look at who Journeys with PDA really is. So obviously I'm Ann Hackler Fouch, and I'm talking obviously with my friend and colleague, my
Partner in crime.
partner in crime, all of it, all the goodness. Heather, I just want to, if you would just share a little bit maybe about kind of what started you on this path with PDA and like, how did you even come to know about PDA?
That's a loaded question.
We only have so much time. So.
Okay. All right. So my son, who is now 11 years old, was diagnosed with autism when he was just shy of 3 years old. And as at that time, former special education teacher, I knew because of my background that he didn't fit like all of the classic characteristics of autism. There were layers within him that just needed to be exposed, and I needed to figure out how to do it. And I was in one of those Google rabbit holes, and I was looking for something to help with an almost 3 going on 4-year-old with executive functioning skills. And it just led me to what is now PDA, the PDA Society out of the UK, and their website. And they were much, much smaller then, because this was like in 2014, I think. And I started reading about PDA, and it was just within the first 2 paragraphs of what they had on their website, I was like, holy moly. I feel like these people have moved in with us and they are describing what our lives are like. At the same time, when I started reading about this, and I'm absolutely convinced that the characteristics of PDA fit with what we were seeing with Will and what we were living with Will, he was also a patient at a very well-known autism clinic in Los Angeles. We lived in Los Angeles at that time. And I was so excited to take all of this stuff that I had found on PDA and showed, his doctor there at the autism clinic. What I really felt was a perfect descriptor of Will. And the doctor didn't even look at it. He would just he glanced at it and kind of tossed it on the table and said, this is just autism. So, and of course this, a doctor's just telling me it's just autism, and
it must be.
It must be, right? PDA, it's not in the DMS. What? So I, at that point, didn't trust myself enough. I wasn't enough of a assertive, I don't think, person to just really dig in my heels and say, no, this is what we're dealing with. Um, and I just kind of went more with the classic autism therapies for him,
Mhm.
with it never really, with the exception of like the speech therapy or occupational therapy, which were very, very helpful for him. Just kind of, we were just treading water with the other things. Um, he eventually was um, put into preschool at, 3.5, a special needs preschool. And then he went into public school. Um, and he was never a school avoider, but being in school was not easy for him or for us as a parent. So he was getting suspended in kindergarten. We were having IEP, amendments all the time, because the traditional supports and services for autism working
Mhm.
were not working for him. And I'm going to be honest with you, I just thought I had a very, very difficult child, because I, as a special education teacher, I mean, it I things, I knew this is classically how we're taught to teach autistics, and it was not working with my son.
Right.
So we struggled for years, and to the point where I truly thought that at some point um, we were going to have to look for an inpatient service for him, or some kind of residential
Mhm.
facility for him, because the way the PDA manifests with him, it's violence, and it's physical violence, and it comes to a point where a parent can only handle so much, no matter how much you love a child, no matter how much you are trying, no matter how much of anything. It
Right.
just comes to a point where other people may have to step in.
Mhm.
um, so a couple things happened kind of all at the same time.
Mhm.
We were a military family, and we were getting ready to um, move because of my husband's job. And Will had just completed the second grade, and he was going into the third grade. And we were going to have to move like a month and a half into his third grade year, if had we been in public school. And I didn't have it in me to transfer, after school had started,
Mhm.
and to get a school acclimated to my son. So we decided to homeschool, starting in the third grade. And I know a lot of us PDA, or parents of PDAers, when we try to homeschool, um, we try to set up our home like a school. Um, and even though we things got a lot better because there wasn't that pressure at school, like the energy in our house got better. Um, our relationships got better because we weren't always having to deal with the we weren't having to deal with the after effects of his behavior during the school day at home.
Sure.
But again, because as a teacher, we're going to do reading, and then we're going to do math, and then we're going to do spelling, and we've got this science experiment and all this wonderful, wonderful thing. It wasn't as good as it could have been.
Sure.
So we move. We continue doing homeschool. We homeschool for third grade, all of third grade, and uh, towards the end of Will's fourth grade year, I just happened to be on Facebook and found that there was going to be a PDA conference in Chicago. And I was like, PDA? What could this possibly be, the PDA that, I was told didn't exist,
Mhm.
a couple years before? And sure enough, it was. And I decided that my husband and I are going to go away for a weekend to Chicago. And we were both going to, go to this conference and just see what it was all about. Um, Went to the conference and realized that things, we needed to do a lot of changing and to help support him.
Mhm.
Um, came back from the conference, and in my head I really thought that I could cherry pick what I was going to, implement in our household. Okay, well, I like this idea of, supporting PDA, but I
Right.
don't like this idea because this goes against what I've ever thought a parent or parenting should be. So that went over, real well. Um, if you can't pick up on my sarcasm, it's yeah. And I had that as, our second light bulb moment when we were actually actually in the middle of doing math at home, and we were just, I mean, it was just, it was a very, very difficult um day, time,
Mhm.
subject, but by God, I had it down in our lesson plans that we were going to do it, right? So we're going to do it.
Right.
And he was just so upset, and I could just tell that we were about to, have a meltdown,
Mhm.
or panic attack. And I just looked at him and I said, we don't have to do this.
Mhm.
We don't have to do this. And he looked at me, and there was this untrusting kind of, like, my mom is saying we don't have to do something after she said we had to do something. And I just said, I'm not, this is not a trick. I'm not tricking you. I'm telling you, if you don't want to do this, we don't have to do this. In fact, if you don't want to do school the rest of the day, we don't have to do school the rest of the day. It's perfectly fine. And he got up and he left. And from that day, and for a couple of months afterwards, we started deschooling
Mhm.
and then went into unschooling. But that was the day where I stopped cherry picking, um, what I what I thought I could, convince myself was okay, and to support the PDA in our home environment, and just completely immersed ourselves into a PDA friendly, supportive environment in our house where we are, um, low to no demands.
Mhm.
We, we have very few non-negotiables. And because we have provided this environment for him, we are seeing him thrive. These, I mean, it's not perfect because life is not perfect. Um, we still have days where it's, you have no idea what the triggers have been, and because they're not always apparent. And, we know that demands can be internal, and it could be something that we
Right.
have no privy to, we were not responsible for. Um, but the anxiety attacks, the meltdowns, the panic attacks have decreased probably 90%. Um, and he's much happier. We are a much happier family,
Mhm.
um, because we understand now what PDA is, and that it's one of those things you can't cherry pick
No.
the approaches to. Um, and this is the way we need to live for him to be a healthy and happy, um, and mentally healthy young man.
Mhm. Which I a couple of things that, are for one, I've said this before at different times, is it's so interesting to me that nearly every family I've talked to that has a PDA, or there is this thread that weaves between all of us, that as you were talking, I was like, yep, yep, yep. That it's your story is part of my story. And, I know my part of my story is part of your story. And, when you were saying cherry picking, I'm like, no, with our PDAers, you're either all in
Right.
or don't bother.
Right.
Because that's not the way it works. You either have to completely dive in and, this whole paradigm shift of your parenting, you either, again, you got to dive in all the way, or, you can't dip your toe in the water. That's
No.
not the way this works. But the other thing is that what I love is that Will is thriving, but also you and your husband
Yes.
are thriving individually, with each other, and then as a family of three. That's what we've found, is that, once we figured out what we needed to do to support Drew, it's not only that you have this amazing kid that, doesn't have all this anxiety that's causing all these behavior issues and all this struggle. Because when they're happy, we're all happier. And so that's what I always think is just, it's hard work to shift your mind and to actually start living this way. It actually takes practice. I mean, I remember at first, I don't know about you, but you talked about cherry picking, that it takes practice to actually live this way, because it's not our go-to. It's not how we thought we'd parent, but oh my gosh, once you do, it literally is a whole different ball game. And it's so enjoyable compared to, you think that you're giving so much up,
Right.
but yet you're actually giving your family so much,
Right.
because it's so much better and it's so much richer. And you really get to see who your kid was really always meant to be.
Absolutely.
You don't have all that stress and anxiety and struggle in the way anymore. And not that it's, as we've said before, it's not like it's perfect. There is no perfect. But we have these conversations sometime, and I don't know if you and MJ do, but sometimes we have to stop and say, like, is this PDA, or is this Drew being
Yes.
an 8-year-old boy?
Yes.
You know? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
we're like, wait a minute, this is just typical appropriate development for an 8-year-old boy. They're going to do this or that. So,
Oh, yes.
oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. So, what's interesting too is that you and I actually sat next to each other, our families did,
Yes.
at the PDA conference, not knowing where we would end up someday.
But we didn't even say hi to each other.
No.
I mean, no, because you were like, I was second to the last on one side of the long table, and you were at the very end of the other end of the table. And then our husbands sat together,
Yeah.
right next to each other. But yeah.
Clearly very friendly people, because we didn't even speak to each other. And here we are now. So I just always think it's helpful too. Another reason I want to do this is because when I listen to other parents share their story, it also just gives validation to me. Like, when I can nod my head and go, oh my, yes, that's my story. Or, oh my gosh, yes, that makes so much sense. Or we've been there too. So that's another reason I wanted to do this, is just for people to get to know us more on a personal level and kind of understand that, the things we share and the things we're doing, it's because we've also been there. We're not people that, oh, let's, do this, and we have no experience. Like, we live it 24/7.
Right. And I also think it's really important for the people who are, searching the Google at 2 a.m, because they are just the Google, because they are just absolutely trying so desperately to find that one thing.
Yes.
And you find it, and then you just want more and more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also that phenomenon where I think I just remember how I couldn't find my phone.
I was gonna say, did you just
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I heard it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. We know it's in this room.
I heard it.
That's a good sign. It's in this room. Yeah, I still can't find it though. and I don't want, okay,
Maybe it'll beep again. So
maybe it will.
anyway, but
Um,
this phenomenon, what were you saying?
yes, where I feel like we have to parent. Let me find the right words for this. There's a lot of shame and embarrassment before we get the strength to say, we have to do it this way because this is what's best for our family. And it's okay. And, I just want to be the one to say it's okay. We know what happens behind closed doors. We know how ugly PDA can be. And I mean, as a baby, Will would crawl after me to bite me. I mean, what baby does that? Um, and it can be a very emotional and hard thing to think that you're dealing with the big emotions and
Mhm.
big anxiety, and how it manifests, whether it's words, or um, they flee, or they are physically violent towards you. um, there's a lot of shame in that, because you think that you can't handle your child, or you're not parenting the right way. And then when you go to ask for help, whether it's with the medical community or the school community, it's about your parenting. um it's always about your parenting, and what do we got to change this, we got to do this, we got to do that. And it's not, it's this is something where it's not about your parenting. It's about your child and how your child's brain is wired, and how the paradigm really needs to shift within you as a parent, within your family dynamic, so that your child can be appropriately supported, um, emotionally, that safety wise, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. There's no shame. And come out of the dark and ask for help, and
Absolutely.
ask for support.
And a couple things as you were talking, I was thinking of, when you said the ugly, and when you say that, you mean, the severe anxiety, and like, you're talking about the PDA, you're not talking about your child. I just want to
Correct.
make sure that people
Yes,
understand
absolutely.
that. And even the PDA, like, now we celebrate who our kids are now that we understand, because they truly are these amazing these amazing individuals. I mean, all our kids are amazing, but when you're in that, when you're in the place where you don't understand yet what's going on, because your kid doesn't fit here and they don't fit here, and then you ask the questions to the professionals and no, that's not it, but in your gut and your heart you feel like it is, and you just don't fit. That's what we're talking about. The like we, that's the ugly. We're not. I just want to clarify when
Yeah,
people.
sorry.
No, no, no. I
Oh,
just
thank you,
want to
thank
make
you.
sure that people understand that when you say the ugly of PDA, we're meaning that anxiety and the
Yeah.
meltdowns and the
and,
just
and just feeling so sorry, like, because you just,
before we knew how to support them.
correct, you want your child to be happy,
Yeah.
and you're just, you don't know how to do it,
Right.
and that, thank you for clarifying that, because
I
that
just
is
wanted to clarify to make sure people, obviously I assume that people, know our hearts and where we are, but sometimes
right.
people question what we say. Um,
That's true.
an occasion. Um, so that kind of brings me to sharing about our why. And we both, we obviously, a lot of our whys, mine and yours, are similar. But can you just share a little bit more about that? Like why you wanted to jump in with me to do this, and why we wanted, like, why we wanted to start Journeys with PDA. What was your why? And I think you kind of touched on that obviously, but maybe expand on it a little bit.
I feel like it was like it was a calling.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, I'm kind of an open book, and you know, having that teacher heart, having that,
Mhm.
just there was, I just realized that there was so much that could be shared in a safe way, in a you know, in a very supportive way. And you know, you and I have such similar, I mean, we're very different people, and we both have, you know, we both have our wheelhouses and what we're really good at. But you and I think, work so well in this because we both have the same passion for
Mhm.
this, and we have the same ideas, um, about how we want to support families
Mhm.
with PDA. Um, and it's just, you know, it when you think, I mean, journeys, it's just one, it's, again, you know, you and I were on the same but different journeys, and
Mhm.
we know that other families are out there on the same but different journeys.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's what it was interesting because when we were trying to, come up with our name for what we were doing, and we struggled a lot, and we actually started out with journeys with our boys.
Mhm.
Um, and we got some feedback that people thought we were only supporting boys
Boys. Hmm.
that had a PDA profile or that fit the profile. And we're like, oh, no, no. I mean, we're moms of boys, but we certainly, are welcoming and want to be supportive of girls. And then, we got some feedback about you really need to have PDA in your name so that, people can, find you and connect with you. But you're right. I mean, I feel like this is a journey that we've been on for several years, and
Mhm.
it's a journey like we'll be on, forever.
Right.
And it'll just grow and develop and change over time. But I will say that that's what I love about you and I is because we are very different, and that's what makes this work, I think, so well, is because you have your background, you have a general ed background, but you also have special education and a gifted background, to where mine is in more general education, and I've been a parent educator. And so, like, bringing that all together, that background, but then also our similar experiences of being parents of PDAers, and there's similarities there, but also what's interesting is there's differences. So we actually learn from each other a lot, as far as I learned from you, like, oh, that's not something we experience. And so your story helps me learn and grow, and vice versa, I think. So
Right.
that's why I think we work. And even in the families that we've met through our morning coffee chats and our morning coffee and evening chats.
Mhm.
It's just so interesting because literally we're all over, and there again, there's that thread that just weaves through all of us. Um, but I remember at the conference being in that room and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm finally with my people."
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember, like, within the first 5 minutes, I had tears welling up in my eyes because I realized, I'm like, we, what? You know,
We're
I'm not
together.
crazy.
Yes.
I mean, really and truly, it was within like the first 5 minutes, I was just like, and again, I wasn't going to the conference for any kind of deep,
Right.
nothing. I mean, it was like, oh, well, hey, somebody's talking about PDA.
Yeah.
Let's go listen. You know,
Right.
I didn't expect it to be a life-changing event.
Right.
And that's what it was. Um and that is why, you know, I'm here. That's why, you know, I think you're here.
Mhm.
Even though you were further along in your PDA journey, um, I caught up pretty quick. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I caught up pretty quick. Um, so, I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of how we ended up here.
Yeah.
And maybe one day you and I can actually meet in person.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
We've done all of this virtually.
Hopefully someday.
Stupid COVID.
It's getting closer,
It is.
closer.
Yay. Yay.
Um, so we can we'll come back and you can kind of chat with me and I'll share my story a little bit so they get the inside scoop from each of us. But I just was looking here on our Facebook Live. Looks like several people are joining us. So hi, I see
Oh,
Kurt,
nice.
Dusty, and Laura.
Yay. And Charlotte says, oh my goodness, I didn't realize you guys have never met in person. I mean, I guess technically we have because
Yeah, we've seen each other. We just didn't officially meet. We didn't know each other at the time.
Yeah.
We've only been, um, and Charlotte also said earlier, I've never felt more solitude than when I'm speaking to another parent of a PDAer. Like, finally, someone who just gets it, really gets it.
Yes.
And I think that for me, that's what's been so impactful is just being able, when people feel validation, when people hear our stories or they talk with us or, we consult with them and we're like, oh my, it's just so nice to hear someone that gets it. Like they're not even looking for answers. It's just like, I'm not like when you went to your doctor and they just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like you're just dismissed. And in our heart of hearts as parents of PDAers, it's like, no, this is not okay. I know there's more going on. And I also like what you said about, back then you you didn't have the confidence or you didn't have the strength or the courage to say, no, there is something to this. And that's one thing I would never be claimed to be a a confident, self-confident person. But when it comes to your kids, that you see how many mama bear shirts have you seen out there, and boy, nothing makes you more of a mama bear than when you need to find the right supports for your kiddo. And so I think that's what's really
Oh,
honest.
oh, oh, you know what? Guess what? I found my phone and I just made it
Oh
all
yay.
noisy and stuff. Yeah, but I don't know if you heard that. I apologize.
Oh no, that's good. Laura says I need to meet you both in person again
I
too.
know.
Yes.
Hi, Laura.
100%. You need to come across the pond, Laura, when we can. But anyway, okay, well, we'll wrap this up because I'm sure there's people that maybe need to get on with their day. But just thanks for sharing your little insight. I always, like I said, I like to get to know people and there's,
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
oh my gosh, you're so brave to sing.
Oh,
On Facebook Live.
I always forget it's live. So, I mean, you know.
Laura's on her way. What time will you be here,
Oh,
Laura?
hey, good.
Have dinner ready. Wait, no, she's 6 hours ahead. We'll probably have breakfast ready. Okay.
We'll have toast with beans for you, Laura. Okay. And some clotted cream. And I don't know if you drink coffee, but we have lots of tea here. At least in our family, we have lots of tea.
Yep.
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow a.m.
yes. All right. Looking forward to it.
Oh, Charlotte's coming with Laura. We
Okay.
got ourselves a party.
Woo-hoo! All
Well,
right.
thank you. So, yeah, thanks so much. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.